Tonight on Mississippi Insight, the vice presidential debate and the race for president. We've brought together a pair of experts, a former and current lawmaker from both sides who have plenty to say.
Harris had an opportunity yesterday to talk about court packing and whether she was for it or against.
Court packing? Have you seen the federal court? Have you seen the makeup of the federal courts?
Hello and welcome to Mississippi Insight. I'm Byron Brown. Thank you for joining us. It was this past Wednesday, the matchup between Vice President Mike Pence and Democratic Vice Presidential nominee Kamala Harris. A more cordial affair than the first presidential debate. But the two did go back and forth on a number of issues.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to raise taxes. They want to bury our economy under a $2 trillion Green New Deal, which you were one of the original co-sponsors of in the United States Senate. They want to abolish fossil fuels and ban fracking.
Well, I mean, I thought we saw enough of it in last week's debate, but I think this is supposed to be a debate based on fact and truth. And the truth and the fact is Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000 a year.
He said he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, wait.
I'm speaking.
It'd be important if you said the truth.
To recap the VP debate, the major developments in the race for president, the key races here in Mississippi, we've brought together a small panel, and joining us via Zoom are former Representative Republican Mark Baker and the current head of the Mississippi House Democratic Caucus, Representative Robert Johnson. Lots to discuss, everyone. Let's talk about the latest debate with Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris. Let's get your immediate reaction to what we saw. Mark, let's begin with you. What did you think about this debate?
Thank you for having me first. I think that the voters were able to hear two sides of the argument. And so that was good. I thought the Vice President Pence and Senator Harris comported themselves well. I thought that they made the points that they intended to make. And, you know, I think it was informative, and anybody that watched it had a opportunity to kind of see where the positions were. Now, I mean, there are some criticisms that the candidates dodged the questions. I didn't count, but it was probably pretty even in that regard. Having been through a couple debates, I'll be honest with you, you make points and time flies, and it's kind of like making an argument in court. Next thing you know, the green light's on. Next thing you know, the red light's on. And so I don't fault either candidate for that. Feel like that they did what they intended to do, and it was overall, to me, it was I enjoyed the debate. I'm glad I watched it.
Robert, your thoughts on how the debate went?
I agree with Mark. I think both candidates comported themselves well, much better than the first debate with the two presidential candidates. I do think that the vice presidential nominee, Harris, did a much better job of sticking close to the facts. I mean, she comported herself well. She was patient, even though the vice president on numerous occasions tried to talk over her and interrupted her. I thought that she handled herself well. He was not ugly, but he was very persistent and taking more time than he should and talking over Ms. Harris. But she was very good about making counterpoints about factual issues like the environment, about employment, about the pandemic and the handling of it by Vice President Pence and President Trump. I thought that was important to make those facts clear. But I think both candidates handled themselves well. And I'm like Mark. It didn't change anything for me. I'm a Democrat. I'm a strong supporter and a fervent supporter of presidential nominee Biden and Harris. And I think I was happy to see she didn't run away from her positions or her issues.
Do you believe that these debates really make a difference, the vice presidential debate? Mark, do you believe this is going to make a difference?
I will say this and I think Robert kind of alluded to that. For partisans like we are, I mean, I'm a Republican and my issues and my positions are pretty clear. Robert's a Democrat and his issues and position are clear. Interestingly enough, we come together on so many other issues and so many, you know, as members in the legislature together, I think our voting records, and you'll find this for most members of the legislature, your voting records, with the exception of maybe 10 or 12 votes throughout the course of a session, are closely aligned. Because of the nature of the issue so much. But in this case, I think that the faithful on the right and the faithful on the left heard candidates that reinforce positions that they themselves believe in and think about, and it gave some reassurance to the faithful on the left and the faithful on the right with regard to their candidate and what they heard. One of the things I think that was for Vice President Pence was his ability to articulate well the Trump administration response to the pandemic, and to articulate well, in my opinion, that the ideas that are kind of being presented as the Biden-Harris plan are essentially that which is already being done, has been done, and candidly, the Trump administration is moving on to vaccine and other things. And so we didn't hear a lot of substance out of Senator Harris, and but we did hear, and Vice President Pence was able to articulate well and talk about the economy. And you know, the question always asked in an election is, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And I think on a national level, on a foreign policy level, on a local level, I think the answer is an overwhelming yes. We are better now than we were 4 years ago. And we see on the horizon opportunities to do even more and better and greater things.
And
go ahead, Robert.
Mark, Mark is right. We did find ways to agree on a lot of things, and both of us have strong personalities and found a way to work together. But that little what he just said sounded a lot like what I felt like when Vice President Pence was talking. I'm like, I don't know what world you're living in, but it's not the same one I'm in. I am not, and the people I talk to and represent, we're not better off than we were 4 years ago. The economy is worse. People, and some of it is the pandemic, but a lot of it is not. And I thought Vice President Pence did the best he could in putting a good light on what happened with the pandemic. But everybody knows the truth, and everybody knows it was poorly handled. In terms of substance, Senator Harris was very, very substantive on health care, on the economy, and on the environment. The Vice President Pence talks about healthcare and the environment, like having a green environment and recognizing that we need to do something about climate change. Like that's a bad thing. Reducing our dependency on fossil fuels. He acts like that's a bad thing. She didn't run away from those issues. She talked about them and recognized that that's our future. That's how we're going to do better. That's what we're going to do to have a better future for our children. So she didn't run away from those issues. On healthcare, the Affordable Care Act, we're proud of the Affordable Care Act. We champion it. That's why it's still around. This idea that they've improved it. It would have been in great shape if the Trump administration hadn't tried to do everything to kill it. But you notice that they have not abolished the Affordable Care Act because it works and because it helps so many people.
I know this isn't a debate, but I feel like I need to respond to a couple things. First, we hear about pre-existing conditions and we hear about the dependency as if the Affordable Care Act was the first time that appeared in statute, which in truth and in fact, pre-existing condition, the abolition of that as a condition, as an impediment to insurance was abolished when President Clinton was president. The 26-year dependency occurred before the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act the change in the Affordable Care Act, doing away with the Affordable Care Act, will not affect at all the pre-existing condition provisions or the dependency provisions, each of which pre-existed the Affordable Care Act. See how I tied in pre-existing there? But it does. The statutes I can pull the statute. So this discussion it's just incorrect legally. It's not Robert's discussion. It's the national discussion. Candidly, I fault President Trump and Vice President Pence for not simply stating that. It was allowed to go unchallenged last night. It needs to be clearly articulated and stated going forward. When we talk about whether or not Vice President Pence ran away from the question of the environment, he talked about the cleanest water, the cleanest environment, the conditions of our environment now. And he talked about the Green New Deal and how it will bankrupt our economy. But he also talked about the need. Now, he didn't run from climate change. He said it's obvious that there is clear climate change. The question is, how is it occurring and what can be done?
Much more with our two guests when we come back. we know the next presidential debate will be virtual, and President Trump says he is out. Do you think that will change and we won't or will have a second debate? Robert, what do you think?
Well, I've been keeping up with it. The president, the president changes his mind every day. So far, he's still saying he won't participate in the virtual debate. And if the best thing I can bring to a debate is interrupting people and talking over the commentator and talking over the person on the other side, and the fear that, and he said it today in an interview, he said, they can cut your mic off. I don't want to participate in a virtual debate. My understanding is that sometime in the last couple of hours that Vice President Biden has agreed to participate whether President Trump shows up or not. So they're going to have a town hall debate, even if there's just one candidate there. And I suspect, given his negative growth in the polls, the president is down and continues to be down, that sometime before the 15th, the president would change his mind and be there and show up.
He's indicated that he's not going to participate in a virtual debate. I see problems with that. I see problems with participating in it. I don't think it provides the forum that is this type of interaction requires. But those are not my calls. Whatever happens, happens. I'm sure that if he's not at the debate, he'll be on the road somewhere to 20,000, 30,000 people. I know, Joe Biden needs these because when he shows up somewhere, nobody else does. And so these will help him, and President Trump can see and be with as many people as possible. But when I was thinking about polls, and I was thinking about President Trump in 2016. And I remember 3 months before the election that the Mason-Dixon poll in Mississippi, and Robert, correct me if I'm wrong, had Hillary up 3 or 4 points over Trump. And I want to tell you, what I've come to realize is that supporters for Trump don't answer polls and avoid them. They don't want to get involved. They don't want to have the problems. They don't want to hear the fussing. They don't want to do it. They just want to show up at the poll and vote.
But Democrats are not. You're right. We're not taking it for granted. You're right. Hillary was up. And so the fact that Biden is up is not anything that anybody is resting on. We're working hard and understand that there's work to do. And Joe Biden does need these debates because he asserts himself well in these debates. He shows that he's a caring, thoughtful, intelligent leader, and that he has experience and he's ready to take this country in a place that it needs to be to unify the country. The president, whether or not he has 20 or 30,000 people at these events, that's always in question. That's his assertion, but usually the actual count is usually less than that. But you're right. He said that instead of going to this debate, he'll probably go to a rally or have a rally somewhere. All of this is irresponsible, it's unnecessary. Let's just try to give the American people the information they need. Let's try to be honest and truthful and forthright with them. And let's stop turning this into a reality show and let's just move forward and bring this country back together.
I hear that a lot. I hear that let's stop this. This is happening, whatever. First, the rally or the next debate is going to be after his quarantine period. So this issue about, it's not tomorrow.
We don't know that, Mark, because we don't know when he got infected. They won't let us know when he had his last negative test. He may have just
when he went to the hospital.
We don't know. Yeah, nobody knows. He won't admit when it is. We don't know.
I don't know.
We're relying on Donald Trump who says now he's not contagious.
But it's probably a mixed boat. But I will say this. He's following the protocols. There's this idea that we don't know. His doctors have spoken. They said, here's what's going on. Because nobody called me on the phone and said, hey, Mark, by the way, this is what's going on with President Trump. We act like, we don't know. Well, all you got to do is go on the news and you can search it and you can find, if you didn't see it while you were watching the news, you can see an excerpt or a segment with regard to President Trump's doctors at Walter Reed telling you what's going on. So this idea that we don't know, I'm telling you, I can do it while we're on the air right here, right now.
I'm right here, Mark. Nobody has said when Donald Trump got. The doctors have not said. They have not said how long should President Trump be quarantined. Well, he's doing well. That's all they say. We don't know, and so, but if I'm not going to his rally, if you want to go to his rally not knowing when he was infected or if he's still infected, go ahead. But I'm just telling you, the president won't tell us. But that's fine.
This sounds like another presidential debate right here.
That's like this idea that he doesn't disavow hate groups, and yet he does it every day.
He does not.
He does it every day. Every day. I've got 25 entries between a 14-day period, 25 alone just from him, not even his staff, where he's done it. And it's not enough. It's like in the course of whenever he speaks to anywhere, if he doesn't go through a litany of 25 things, then of course he doesn't care about it. He rejects it. He hadn't done it. And it's a good thing. Look, the Democrats have done a good job of this. They've got him on his heels about it. And but we've got to start speaking up. Those of us that see it and don't believe it and understand it's not true and not correct, we've got to do a better job of going, hey, wait a minute, hold on. I heard it twice today.
Mark.
Today.
He was asked in the debate. All he had to do was say it in the debate. You asked when he's asked a question, he was asked one time. I don't know about these 25, and I don't doubt you. You've always been honest with me. If you say you got 25, I believe you got 25. But the president was asked the question, and he didn't answer it. He refused to answer it. In fact, he gave an assertion on behalf of an extreme group, asking them to. Okay, all right. Well,
I say he wasn't familiar.
Everybody, it's been everywhere. I listened to the debate. We saw it. He had an opportunity to say it in front of all of America, the country, and he didn't do it. But I'll take your word for it that I can find it somewhere.
Ms. Harris had an opportunity yesterday to talk about court packing and whether she was for it or against.
Court packing? Have you seen the federal court? Have you seen the makeup of the federal courts in this country? The federal appeals courts, the federal circuit courts, and now about to be the Supreme Court packing the court. One more justice won't make any difference. We'll just have the number of justices we need. The more minds, the more smart people we got, the better.
So Robert Johnson is on record wanting to expand the number of Supreme Court justices.
Now, I'm on record wanting to expand them to the point that we have a equitable court, not a one-sided court. Yes, I'm on record of saying that.
Well, it was okay when it was okay previously, but now that the conservatives appear to be at the point where they can get a majority, now we need to expand it.
Oh, yeah. Just like now, it was okay to say no to appointing a Supreme Court justice when in the last year of Barack Obama's term, but it's okay to go on and appoint one now.
Well, you don't be disingenuous. You know the difference.
This is a good debate here. It almost sounds like a presidential debate right here that we got going on. We'll talk about the race for Senate when we come back. Yeah, Mississippi politics. The big race here is the one for Senate, and Mike Espy's raising a fair amount of money and putting a lot of ads on the air. And some show that the race is almost neck and neck with a 40 to 41% in the latest poll. Cindy Highsmith says that she's not sure she's going to debate Mike Espy. Does she need to debate Mike Espy, or is she doing the right thing? Mark, we'll begin with you.
I don't know what the thinking on the campaign is in that regard. You know, I think we're pretty late in the boot, pretty much from a local standpoint for a debate. I don't have a problem if there is a debate. I'm not sure that it's really going to do much from the standpoint of moving the needle in Mississippi in that regard. But, you know, I just haven't heard much about it. I think that Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith has done a good job as senator, and I think that she's pretty secure in her position with regard to where she is from the standpoint of this election and what she's doing to help the citizens of the state of Mississippi and working with President Trump. And so, you know, all I can say is that she's working hard every day. I do know that, both in Washington and in Mississippi, and whether or not that results in the ability to have the debate, I can't say.
Do you believe this race will be close?
Well, I mean, I think it'll be a close race. I mean, most races of this nature in Mississippi are somewhat close. And so, you know, Democrats start with 40%. And so from that point, 43%. And so from that point, they're, Mike Espy's looking for 7% plus a little bit. And so the question is whether or not it's there or not. I don't think it is. The numbers I've seen are you know, appear that Cindy Hyde-Smith is solidly in the lead. I don't think there's been much change in the minds of Mississippians since the special election. And so I don't expect the outcome to be any different, and probably around the same numbers.
Robert, real quickly, running out of time here, but do you believe that she needs to debate and whether the race will be close?
Well, I think the race will be close, and I think the debate helps Congressman Espy because she has a lot she needs to answer for. But the other thing that it helps do, which is why she's not debating him, that whenever there's a debate, Mike asserts himself extremely well, but it also illustrates how far to the right and how disconnected in terms of the poor, the people of color that Cindy Hyde-Smith did. And what Mike needs and what Cindy Hyde-Smith does for him is drive the needle up. And there are people who may not come out, but if a debate shows that it's urgent enough, and they see enough of Cindy Hyde-Smith, it'll make them come out. And that's 7% that Mark talks about. They're not crossover people. Those are people that may or may not come out to vote. We need to get them out of the house. But I think Mike is on a good track. He continues to work hard. We'll pull those people out. Mike has all the crossover he's going to have. And he is far from the most liberal Democrat here in the state. I don't know why she keeps saying that. I think that they think that's a negative. I think it's going to help drive those people out that we need to get out. But we got extra Democrats, extra undecided voters who are not Republicans who Mike needs to get out, and he's working really hard to get them.
Gentlemen, I thank you for your time and for joining us. I think we just had the third debate here for the season between the two of you guys. Appreciate your time.
That's what we talk all the time. Mark and I work well together, but we will get into a few.
I do. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your discussion and giving us some insight on this election season. And we're going to be right back. Thanks, Representative Robert Johnson and former State Representative Mark Baker, for joining us. Join us again next week for another edition of Mississippi Insight. Until then, make it a good night.